The samurai were not born with control. They built it piece by piece through silence, repetition, and pain. Their mastery wasn't about fighting emotions, but understanding them so deeply that emotions became tools instead of enemies. They didn't conquer the world, they conquered themselves first, and that's what made their presence unshakable. A samurai's day began long before dawn. In the quiet dark, he trained his breath, his focus, his posture. Every inhale and exhale had purpose. Every movement was deliberate. Control started before the sword was even drawn. By commanding the rhythm of their breathing, they learned to command their thoughts. Because when the breath is steady, the mind obeys. Their control wasn't about rigidity, it was about flow. They moved like water, adapting to what was around them while staying unbroken at the core. When life threw them into chaos, they didn't resist, they adjusted. They believed that true strength lies in flexibility, not force. In every moment of uncertainty, they found a rhythm instead of panic. A samurai never waited for peace to arrive. He created it. In the noise of conflict, he could still hear silence. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was awareness. The samurai practiced stillness not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Stillness trained the mind to see without distortion. In that stillness, they could separate what was real from what was emotional noise. That was their secret weapon, clarity under pressure. They lived with the awareness that they could die at any moment, and that awareness made them more alive. Knowing that time was borrowed forced them to live each second with full attention. Instead of fearing loss, they embraced impermanence. When you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, not victory, not failure, not life, your mind stops clinging. The samurai used mortality to sharpen focus, not to invite fear. Self-control for them was not just mental, it was physical. Their training connected body and mind into one instrument. Every cut of the blade, every stance, every step was an exercise in presence. If the body was tense, the mind would falter. If the mind wandered, the body would follow. So they learned to unite both until movement became meditation. They also understood the power of simplicity. Their homes were minimal, their meals modest, their routines disciplined. Not because they rejected comfort, but because they knew excess weakens willpower. When you remove distractions, your mind becomes sharper. Their simplicity wasn't punishment, it was freedom. They owned less, but they were more. When emotion hit, anger, fear, pride, they didn't suppress it, they studied it. A samurai would pause and observe his feelings like a scientist. What triggered it? What does it teach me? By analyzing emotions instead of drowning in them, they turned weakness into understanding. Control wasn't about killing emotion, it was about decoding it. They trained themselves to stay calm under discomfort. Whether it was hunger, cold, fatigue, or insult, they refused to give those things control. By enduring voluntarily, they built emotional immunity, because the worst had already been practiced. In conversation, they chose their words like strikes. They didn't waste speech. A samurai's silence was often louder than another man's anger. Words carry energy, and once released, they cannot be recalled. That's why they spoke rarely, but when they did, every sentence carried weight. Controlling the tongue was as important as controlling the sword. Their control extended to thought itself. They knew that uncontrolled thinking was as dangerous as uncontrolled rage. The mind could wander into fear or regret and poison focus. So they trained through meditation to bring thought back to the present moment, over and over again. Each time the mind drifted, they gently pulled it back, like taming a wild horse. That repetition built mental stamina, the kind that holds firm even when life collapses around you. Art was another form of discipline. Many samurai painted, wrote poetry, practiced calligraphy, or played instruments. To outsiders, this looked like leisure, but to them, it was training in disguise. Art demanded patience, precision, and vulnerability. When they painted, They painted with the same attention they gave to the sword. When they wrote a poem, they wrote with the same intention they fought with, clarity and control. They didn't define victory by conquering others. Their greatest triumph was ruling the self. The more they understood themselves, the less external power mattered. A samurai didn't need to prove his strength. His calmness was proof enough. Even in defeat, his dignity remained intact because control wasn't something that could be taken. It lived inside him. Reflection was part of their daily ritual. Every night, they examined the day, not to judge, but to learn. Where did emotion take over? Where did impatience win? This nightly audit kept their ego in check and sharpened awareness for the next day. It was a cycle of growth, repeated endlessly. Each reflection was a small sharpening of the inner blade. Even compassion was seen as control. Mercy towards an enemy or understanding towards a rival required strength. Anyone can hate, only the disciplined can forgive. Compassion wasn't softness, it was dominance over pride. By choosing empathy, they proved they were not slaves to vengeance or ego. Their control was also seen in how they handled success. They celebrated quietly, knowing that pride could blind faster than anger. The samurai bowed to victory the same way they bowed to loss, with balance. Their humility wasn't about appearing modest, it was about staying centered. Control isn't only tested in failure, it's tested in glory. Through all of this, one truth guided them. Control was not about perfection but awareness. They didn't aim to eliminate weakness, they aimed to understand it so completely that it lost its power. They knew that chaos would always exist, inside and outside, but they had trained to remain calm in both worlds. Even now, centuries later, their lessons echo through time. Self-control is not about building walls, it's about knowing when to open the gate. It's not about killing emotion, it's about mastering its direction. The samurai proved that true strength is invisible. It is the ability to stay steady when the world trembles. They remind us that discipline is not a punishment, but a path to freedom. When you can control how you respond, nothing controls you. And in that moment, when everything slows and silence replaces fear, you realize why the samurai were unstoppable. Because the real battle was never against others. It was always against the self.